identifying the right individuals with the right skills. We've kind of talked about that already a bit, but maybe this is an area, Mike, that you're extremely familiar with in terms of how do you make sure that you have the right individuals with the right skills, and that's sort of, I think that's just one part of it, and then the second part is how do you identify them at the right time when you need those individuals?
Yeah, it's a chicken and the egg kind of thing. Well, this is the core of what we do, and I could go on for 20 minutes just on this question, but I think what I wanted to say about it is we've developed a proven process to get it done right. And it starts by defining the functional and technical requirements of the role. So once we know what's expected, then we measure. We measure how is this person doing against that set of objectives. And on the front line, this is typically done by a trainer or supervisor making observations of that worker. How are they doing in loading the machine, or welding, or whatever the aspect might be. Once they have reached proficiency, or maybe have become so good that they can show others how to do it, we recommend creating a certification, and that someone would be certified at doing that operation. And we save these ratings to a database and put it on a dashboard showing who is certified or proficient for each operation. This comes back to sort of creating a roster of capabilities so that you have the people who know how to do things clearly identified. During the proficiency climbing, while they're developing these skills, access to tools like Swipe Guide for standard work instructions and shared best practices that they get through Ever are big accelerators. But people are not born with the capabilities to do work on the shop floor. They've got to be taught. And I think the clarity around what's expected, and then creating training resources, collaboration, and then giving them the pat on the back that says, hey, you're doing good enough now that you're certified at it. It helps the individual and the company.
Don, is that something that you see that goes hand in hand in some of the projects that you're involved with when you're digitizing the standards, which is sometimes like a formalizing those standards, that a certification process or a new way of tracking that goes hand in hand with that?
Yeah, we see that in a lot of cases, because I think when you look at what exactly digital standard work in that sense is perfect material for on-the-job training. So if I look at what we do with Swipe Guide and sort of the content that sits in our platforms, for instance, at a company like Heineken is globally used to train people on the job. And I think that makes total sense, because we're not in an age where you can put these people in a classroom for 5 days to train them on how stuff actually works on the shop floor. They need to be on the shop floor. They need to have their standards available there with the supervisor or the on-the-job trainer to go over it and reach that level. And that's, I think, where it ties into what Mike is doing with SkillsNet, is that if you do all of that, you need to have a place to manage it. So you want to keep record of that. And also a company like Heineken wants to keep record of who did what sort of work instructions to gain a level of proficiency. And that can be a level of ticking the box, read and understood, yes, I'm certified, up to a level where you have 5 different skills levels, like beginner, advanced, expert, trainer, whatever. And that, of course, then needs to be tracked. So we see a lot of combinations where people, once they build up their knowledge base, also want to connect that to their skills management, of course.
Yeah. And I imagine that the more qualified everybody is, the more prepared they are to look for new opportunities, to look for new ways of doing things, to recognize things that are out of standard and so forth. So it's again, it's a cycle, right? It's sort of a positive acceleration of the business. This actually, so let's jump now from that into something that is a real acute topic for everybody I've talked to, right? If it's not supply chain and I'm missing a microchip or an input into my product, it's I need people. Where do I find people? How do I retain the people that I have? And Mike, this is again an area that you're so kind of embedded in. How have you seen this managing skills or doing a better job with that become more important to companies in terms of the key activity of attracting, retaining, and growing talent?
Yeah, that's kind of the career journey. Well, it's a great question. I'm going to break it down. First, let's talk about attracting talent. We all want to be a part of a company that will help us get better. Joining an organization with the world-class training capability will set the firm apart. And talking about offering cross-training so that the individual can expand and become more valuable is another differentiator. So I think this concept of using training as a bargaining chip in the negotiation to attract talent is a very key ingredient. Once you've hired them, then can you retain them? And turnover is really the worst outcome for companies because they went to the trouble to train people and then they lose them. And now everybody talks about this phase of society is called the Great Resignation. So people are leaving, and from big jobs, plant managers are leaving, and so developing proficiency quickly and effectively is a key to retention. There's a lot of research that developing people is a high priority, and this is especially true in the younger workforce who want to be capable in so many areas. Also, I think who wants to go to work when they feel like they're not good at what they're doing? So it's frustrating. You go in and you feel like you're not doing a good job. You're not going to stick with it. I talked about this before. I'll just say it again. This notion of giving someone a reward as a certification, it costs the company nothing, but it builds pride. And that is a meaningful thing. They're proud of the work they're doing. It's recognized that they're good enough at it that they've earned a certification. This stuff matters. The last thing in your question was about growth. Growth to me is cross-training and building confidence in multiple areas to grow staff. This is great for retention, but it also is growth not only for the individual but growth for the company, because turnover is inevitable. There's sick leave, or someone is late to work because of traffic. Knowing that you have multiple people who can get the job done on a part of the line is something that can easily be managed to by having multiple people with capabilities to do these things.
I think there's a wonderful thought in there in terms of, I think one of the things I'm going to walk away from this is nobody wants to go to a job where they don't know if they're good at it or not, right? And I think that, and we have so many tools available to do that. So, Eric, do you have something to share around that as well? I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, on the whole subject of attracting, retaining talent, for sure, the Mike has already developed a lot on the skills development side. Now, what I would want to emphasize in terms of another thing that helps to attract and retain people, retain talent, is treating them like the human beings that they expect to be treated as, right? As true human beings, because unfortunately, many of these companies are hiring, the perception of frontline employees is a resource that'll help me move things, that'll help me assemble things, that'll help me, unfortunately, it's a very dehumanizing view. So you shouldn't be surprised if you then struggle to retain those people if you view them that way. So what would people expect to have in their jobs? They want to be empowered to solve their own problems, empowered to collaborate with others, use interesting modern technologies as they use in their daily lives. They use technologies like social networks and WhatsApp and communication means, you know, and empower them to use the same sort of things at work. So recognize besides their motor skills, of course, that you're hiring them for, recognize their uniquely human attributes of being creative, being problem solvers, and help them develop those skills both in training and on the job, and reward them for doing so.